Hollyland has done it again, guys. This time is the VenusLiv 2. Hi guys, and welcome to another review. My name is Nathan Flo Rocker, and today we're going to be reviewing the Hollyland VenusLiv 2 live stream camera. We got the privilege of receiving this camera from Camerajoint. Camerajoint is your one-stop shop for everything photography and cinematography. All right, let's go straight into the product review. If you look at the Venus 1 and the Venus 2, where the buttons are still the same, you have the USB-C output, you have the HDMI output, you have the LAN, and you have the SSD card. On the other side, you have a 3.5mm jack for mic or line input. You have the USB-C, and then you have the DC, the power input. That's where you connect the cable into. And then next to the side, you have the function button, you have the microphone button, and then you have the power button. Also, you have the record button. And then, of course, you have the horseshoe mount. You have it in both places because they give you the capacity to either shoot in real mode or you shoot in horizontal mode. Now, if you look at the VenusLiv 2 and the V1, on the V1, all you have is the logo. Whilst on the V2, you do not have the logo. You have the VenusLiv, and then you have the V2 at the top. Another addition is the side of the V2. On the V2, you now have the name of the brand, Hollyland. That was not available on the V1, but that's now available on the V2. Also, if you look at the record button on the V1 just says record. Whilst if you look at the record button on the V2, now it says live. It doesn't say record. I mean, I guess that's practically the only major difference in terms of the body. Other than that, the build is still pretty much the same. Now, the moment you power the V2, it takes 10 seconds to come up. When you power the V1, it takes 25 seconds to come up. Secondly, another thing you notice is the change in the user interface. The icons are very catchy, very colorful. Compared to the V1 is just very basic, everything is basically black and white. But the V2 has tons of colors and is more attractive to the eye. Now, thirdly, when you click on menu on the V2, there is now a new introduction. It's called the toolbox. Now, in the toolbox, you now have those features that were initially in the V1, but now in the V2, of course, with more colors, you have the scene, you have the pro mode, you have the skin tone, that's new. You have the remove background, that's new. You have the overlay, that's new. You have the color, you have the live recording and more settings. Now, when you click on the more settings, you actually get to see more settings that you can use to manipulate the camera. Now, within the scene mode of the very first version, the V1, it gives you just very few options on how to manipulate the lighting of the camera. On the V2, you have 4 major options. You have the auto option, you have the day mode, and then you have the 2-point and the 3-point. Now, the auto mode basically is you telling the camera to do the entire work. The camera would define how much light, the color balance, the environment you're in, and try and adapt the lighting to where you want to shoot. The second mode is the day mode. Now, the day mode, in fact, when you look at the icon, it has the icon of the sun. So basically what that does is when you're shooting, it presumes that you're shooting outdoor during the day. So it calculates the amount of sunlight and uses that to define how much light comes into the center. Now, what I love most about the update to the V2 are the last 2 options, which is the 2-point and the 3-point. Now, I noticed that when I shifted to the 2-point, it then gives you the opportunity. It's presuming that you have 2 lights that you're going to use to film your subject, either the foreground and the background. So the lighting of the camera automatically changes. Now the camera is not doing the lighting for you. It's leaving you with the option of how you want to light. Now, the fourth feature that you get to notice on the V2 is how it shoots. Now, on the V1, you can only shoot at 1080p. That's the highest you can go. Now, on the V2, you have the capacity to shoot at 4K. Now, the good thing about the 4K version is you can shoot at 25 frames all the way to 60 frames. You can't do that on the V1. I mean, the V1 is good, but the V2 is way better. Now, the fifth addition to the V2 is the memory. Now, the memory that comes with the V1 is 32 gig. The memory on the V2 is actually 128 gigabyte. That's 4 times the amount of memory on the V1 installed on the V2. So now you can record internally, even though you still have a slot in case you want to actually, use an SD card. Now, in terms of audio, nothing really has changed. The build on the V1 is still the same build on the V2. The only difference that I think it made for me was that recently I acquired the Rode Pod mic. If you haven't seen my review on the Rode Pod mic, please use the link above and go and watch it. This is a fantastic mic to use either to sing, for percussions, for instruments, podcasts. It's just a fantastic mic. My go-to mic has always been the Shure SM7B, but ever since I came across the Pod mic, my 7B is sort of like on vacation right now. So right now, this is what I'm using. Now, in terms of the audio, the good thing about the Rode Pod mic is that it gives you the capacity to use USB, meaning that the mic is powered via USB. So what I noticed I could do was that I used the USB-C slot and connected that to the mic input of the V2. And the moment I connected it and I started using the Rode Pod mic, I was amazed at the clarity of the audio. The audio was perfect. Now that I know that I can use my Pod mic on the VenusLiv, it's going to change the way I film. Now, another feature of the V2 is the video quality. It's not just the 4K, it's how it looks. Now, yes, I know that, Hollyland says it's a streaming camera, but I have a habit of always looking at what else can it do. So if I'm not streaming with the camera, does that mean that the camera is useless? No. So what I decided to do was take the cam, go on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, and shoot. And I was amazed at what I was able to get off this camera. I was shooting in pro mode and in high definition resolution. I went into the sunlight. The sun was hot. I think it was like 35 degrees centigrade or thereabout. It was pretty hot. I took it on the road. I was filming cars coming. I was filming, local transport going left and right. And the colors were what you're watching right now is not color graded, is not color corrected. This is just off the camera itself. If you're going to get this cam, please, I beg you, do not restrict yourself to saying, I'm just going to use it for live streaming. When you're not streaming, this cam can do a fantastic job of an interview, behind the scenes, a BTS, product reviews. You can use this for practically anything. Now, when it comes to the streaming capability of the V2, there are quite a few improvements from Hollyland. One of the first things they have done is they have improved on the amount of apps that are now available on the camera itself. On the V1, you only have access to 3 apps. You have access to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. But now with the V2, what they have done is they have updated the apps. Now you have TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, and then YouTube. So it saves you the stress of trying to look for how you're going to get the app into the cam when you want to stream. Now, another fantastically welcomed addition is now we have what we call the Venus Cam app. Now, with the V1, we didn't have the opportunity to actually have an application with which to control the entire camera. But now with the V2, Hollyland has introduced the Venus Cam. Now, it's available in the App Store and in the Play Store. So basically what you do is you download the app, and once you download the app looks for the cam automatically. And the moment it finds it, it connects to the cam. And once it's connected to the cam, what happens is you have total control of the camera on the app. I mean, that has been one prayer that we've been, hoping that Hollyland would answer. And now with the app, you can control the entire camera, meaning you don't have to be close to the camera to set it up, or maybe you want to make one or two adjustments. You don't have to be very close to the camera to do that. On your phone, you can actually get that done. And I think that's a very welcomed addition to everything else on this cam. Now, overall, I love the V2 and I love the improvements. I just have a few cons that, I wasn't exactly very pleased with. First and foremost, I'm still hoping that at some point in time, you would be able to stream without using your laptop. Now, I don't know that's coming from either the, apps themselves, whether from YouTube or from Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. I don't know if it's a developer issue, but it would be nice if you can actually go live without a laptop. The second is the fact that for some weird reason, when I was filming with the VenusLiv 2 without using a gimbal or using a tripod, there was a lot of stabilization issues. So I realized that there is no in-body stabilization or even externally compared to if you're using a conventional lens. For example, if I'm using my Canon R5 and I'm using a 70-200 lens, I have the capacity, even with the 50, I have the capacity to switch to image stabilization, meaning that the lens will stabilize itself in case, I wobble a bit or I encounter some form of shake. Thirdly, another issue I have, with the V1, when you are zooming in, the zooming is a bit smooth. There is no issue. But with the V2, I realized that when I'm zooming in, it doesn't band, but it jitters a bit. So it takes a while. There's a bit of jitter when you zoom in. That's the third thing I don't like. And I think besides, the price of the V2 currently goes for $949, while the price of the V1 is $899 as at today when I'm reviewing these cameras. That is all for this review. I'm pretty impressed with what Hollyland has done. Big ups to Hollyland. And hopefully if they can work on the cons on the next edition, that will just take this camera to the next level. On to the next review. My name is Nathan Flow Rocker. Ciao.